Welcome, my name is Emily Crow from Crochet Creations. I am the maker and designer behind my little business. I do sell finished objects, but I mostly do patterns, and you can find my patterns on Etsy and Ravelry. You can follow me on Instagram at Crochet Creations. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. This is part 2 of a process vlog on my design process of making a pattern called the Cardamom wrap. So if you want to watch part 1, it is right up here as well as linked in the description. I would definitely recommend that. That vlog talks more about from inspiration for this design through the gauge swatching, making trial and error design, all the way to having a finished project. And then this vlog will be talking more about the testing and publishing of that pattern. So this is part 2. Things have been a little bit thrown off kilter because my daughter is sick right now and we're just kind of getting into the swing of things, and it's a little hard with a sick kiddo. It is nap time right now. I'm trying to get this filmed before she wakes up and we do more snuggles and TV watching. I originally was planning on testing this pattern in November and December, releasing in December, and that didn't work out. It's a bummer, but no one could really test this pattern. Lots of people said they thought it was really nice, they really liked it, but they just didn't have the time. They had too much on their plates with the holidays and gift makes and things like that. So I decided to table this design and start again in the new year. So it is January 10th right now. A couple days ago, I actually was able to start the testing call, and I've got a few people who've already applied. So I'm really excited that I have some interest in this design. I'll have to show you a little bit of how I do things, but with the testing call, I usually make a Google form and I put that link on my website. I put it in the description of my Instagram profile. I have a questionnaire there so I can get contact information as well as have them answer questions related to the pattern itself, as well as their commitment as a tester to try to ensure that people know what they're signing up for. So I'll definitely give a little tour about that in a little while to kind of show you that. I do this Google form, set it up, have it available, send it out to my newsletter subscribers too, and we'll see how many people get back to me. Today is January 10th, and I will send out the pattern on the 14th. Probably on the 13th or early on the 14th, I will look through that list, contact everyone, double check, make sure that they are good to go with volunteering for this pattern test. Once I get the confirmation, then I will send them the draft. That's kind of what's going on. Part of designing is being flexible, and so changing my testing deadline is part of that. And that's okay. I'm really excited for this design to finally be making it out into the world. Alright, so I thought it would be fun to share with you my testing call application, as well as other things I do to set up a testing call, just kind of showing you what that's about, things that I like to include in case you're interested. Okay, so this is my testing application right now. I've already picked my testers, so things are closed off, but I'll kind of show you what information I have. So I like to explain a little bit about what the pattern is. So I've got my description here, and I usually include that description in the Instagram post I have, as well as anywhere where I'm promoting the pattern. Within the pattern, like on that very first title page, I have it. Kind of all sorts of beginning information, like this says that it's a beginner-friendly pattern, what kind of yarn it uses, all that good stuff. I also like to include some yardage as well as yarn choice information because that's really important, especially for this pattern, as well as the testing information when the application closes, as well as when the deadline is, February 4th. Picture to remind everyone what it looks like, some personal information from them, their name, Instagram, email address, and this is so I can help contact them. The Instagram is so that I have a better idea on the kind of maker they are, making sure that they have experience testing. That's not necessarily required, but I need to be able to trust that this person isn't just going to take the draft of my pattern and run away. It's nice to know what kind of things they like to make, other patterns that they've tested, how much crocheting they have on their Instagram, to see if people that follow them are going to see my pattern, to kind of spread the word about it. And then, like I said, they don't need to be a prior tester. They don't need to be an advanced maker, but I do like to know what their skill level and experience level is, just because it helps me make sure that my pattern will be a good fit for them, that they'll be able to accomplish it. And if I'm reading my pattern as easy, that a beginner maker will be able to complete that easy pattern. So it's really good to have more advanced testers who can really scrutinize the pattern and help me make it perfect. But it's also really good to have beginning testers that can help me see it through a beginner's eye, since that's who the pattern is intended for. I have more information about the yarn since it is so specific fiber content that I require for this yarn, so I include all that information again. I really just wanted to make sure that people weren't signing up without having the yarn available, but that they'd have a good idea on the kind of yarn that they might use, as well as modifications. This stitch pattern is pretty easy, and so I wanted to give people the option, if they wanted to do other things. I do have a couple testers that want to use fewer or more colors than the pattern originally calls for, and so they were able to indicate that there, and I can keep track, follow up with them, make sure that I know in the end how much yardage they use, etc. So that's just kind of for my organization. Disclaimers, commitments, I guess is a better word. These are all things that I want to make sure that they understand, that they're going to provide timely feedback, what feedback I require, and I really like getting any and all suggestions. So any kind of grammar or math issues that they see, anything that's unclear, I like to know how much yardage they use, what yarn they use, etc., any kind of thing like that, so that I can average out the pattern and give other makers the best guesstimate on how much yardage that they'll probably use, as well as giving them the best quality pattern. And the more eyes that see things and can provide input on that pattern, then in my experience, the better it has gone for me in growing my design skills, as well as creating a great pattern. If they don't communicate to me in the event of an emergency that they are willing to pay the full price of the pattern, and I am totally willing to work with my testers. I've had a huge variety of circumstances that have happened that require lengthening testing deadlines and other changes. But the testers who are willing to work with me, I don't charge them ever. You can tell based on how they interact with me as a designer whether or not they intend to finish the pattern. This is just to remind everyone that while they are volunteering their time and their yarn and their energy, their money even, to have the yarn stuff, that it is still my intellectual property. And so I feel like it's really important to set those grounds ahead of time. And like I said, I only ever invoice people the cost of the pattern if they ghost me. I really like having an Instagram group chat, so making sure that they are totally aware of that. I think it's the best way to communicate with me and other testers, to kind of cheer each other on, ask any questions that are really pertinent to the pattern, etc., etc. I like the photos, work in progress as well as final photos. And I always credit people with the photos that they give to me, but I use those photos to promote the pattern on my listings on Etsy and Ravelry, as well as within the pattern. I like to use those photos just to show makers other examples of the pattern. I use them on my social media, on Instagram, Facebook, things like that. But I always credit the original owner of that photo. But it's just really awesome to be able to show other people other versions of the pattern, not just my own. And a space for comments, because sometimes people have special things to say or special questions for me. I've had a typo before, and so someone will comment the typo that they see in my testing application. I appreciate it. That's kind of the testing application, and it's usually pretty similar with each pattern that I do, but I definitely make it unique for every pattern. Every pattern that I make has specific needs, specific information, and so I kind of recycle the application and just make changes where necessary to highlight the new pattern design. I'm actually going to do the Cardamom ear warmer pattern test soon. I'm hoping, because it's a really, really quick pattern, I'm going to release it at the same time as the Cardamom wrap, and so I'm going to be using this same application and just making a few changes so that it applies to the ear warmer itself, making the testing call within the next few days, I think. So that's the testing application, and I have a few testers. I know things come up between the testing call and when the test starts, and sometimes I know it happened to me where I've applied for tests and then afterwards I'm like, is that really how I want to spend my time? I've got other things on my plate. I'm not quite sure if I want to be accepted for that test anymore. That happens. So what I like to do is I send an email to all my accepted testers. I let them know that they're accepted, and then I remind them of all the requirements for the test. Quick rundown: yarn, yardage, deadlines,
things that require feedback, photos, etc. Just a quick reminder, and then I make sure that they confirm whether or not they can complete the pattern test. And actually with this cardamom wrap, because I opened the testing call in November, I had a few people apply then and a few people apply very recently, and actually in both groups things have come up where some people have been like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. That's totally fine. But I'm glad I asked before I sent them the pattern draft, and then they aren't able to complete it. So now I can just cross them off the list for this test and keep them on the contact list for a future test. So I sent out an email like that, and I've heard back from a few people already. So I started an Instagram group chat with the people confirmed to test for me, and I sent out the link to them. Here is my pattern draft. So I like to use Google Doc because that way I can make changes in real time. It's more friendly for the environment since you're not printing out a version every time I make an edit. And it's really easy. You just share it with different people. I like to have my share settings on commenting, so anyone who gets the link to this file can make a comment, and that way I can easily see any edits that people suggest to make. So like I said, I have my picture, I have my description here. Woohoo! All the info! Yay! All the info! Yay! That was my pattern draft, and if you saw, there were some highlighted bits. Those are usually little notes to myself of things I want to still finalize within the pattern. I usually like to have my pattern 90 to 95% ready when I send it to testers, but knowing that I might need to add more photos or I want to add more information for this particular pattern, I want to focus on the fibers themselves, since alpaca and mohair and gore, even someone mentioned, like all those fibers act differently than a traditional wool or acrylic blend or whatever. And so it'd be really interesting to have more information about those fibers, as well as ways to alter the pattern for different sized items, for like a blanket or a cowl or something like that. Have that all in here. And then at the very end of my pattern, I include this always. I have my hashtags, little bit of copyright information. The digital pattern itself and the information therein are included within copyright law. I don't have to do anything particular about that. I know that's a question I had when I was first starting to design, but people can definitely make this item. They can sell the finished item, and that's totally fine, and I think that's awesome. I have my social medias linked, a little blurb about me. I should probably update this photo because this is kind of old. And then here's where I like to put tester photos and tester information. That is the pattern draft that I've got going on right now. Like I said, I have a few testers already in my group chat that have responded and have gotten a link to the pattern draft. And I'm waiting on a few more people to confirm whether or not they can help me with this test. Since the pattern is actually fairly simple, I think it'll be a pretty simple and straightforward pattern test. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm just excited to have this out into the world. It's been a long time waiting on the shelf, ready to go, and it's only been a couple months, but it's felt like such a long time. So I'm excited for that. I can rest a little bit because I have a couple testers I'm really looking forward to working with that I've worked with before. So that's what's going on with my cardamom wrap. Basically right now, I just kind of make any other changes I want to make within the pattern as, ideas come to me, or I do more, research or planning or whatnot, or as edits come in, and I just kind of chill out. Mostly the hard part about the math and the planning and the figuring things out is taken care of now. And really, it's managing people is the part now. And I love and hate this part of the test because I love interacting with other makers, hearing from them, building my community, strengthening my friendships with new people, and even testers that I've worked with before. I absolutely love it, but also it's hard to work with a lot of other people, especially virtually, and it can be a little bit socially draining sometimes. And so it's a different kind of hard in this stage of the pattern design, but I'm looking forward to seeing my testers versions and getting things going with this test because we are getting near the end of this process. Today is actually the deadline for my cardamom wrap and cardamom ear warmer testers. So it is February 8th. And I have to follow up. I really have to organize and see who has already sent me notes and pictures and who has not yet. I like to be a little bit more on top of it, but with the toddler, I see the emails and messages come in and I just kind of put it in the back of my brain. I'll get to that in a little bit.
And so I need to go through and do that, then follow up with any of the testers who have not gotten back to me quite yet. They all have been pretty good about messaging and keeping up with me. The original deadline was February 4th, but one of the testers told me, hey, this is my progress. I don't think I can make it by the 4th. Can you extend the deadline? So we were able to message back and forth and decided on February 8th to just give a couple extra days. And that still gives me a few days to finalize the pattern before my planned release. And so I'll just finish following up with all my testers today and starting to collect the photos. I'll put them all in my Google Drive under my folder for this pattern, but I will name all of the photos after the person who took them so I can categorize and find them really easily and give credit where credit is due. And so I will collect all the photos that I'll collect all the photos that have already been sent and categorize those and follow up, double check to see who I still need information from. Today is kind of finishing up loose ends for my testers. It's been a really smooth pattern test, honestly, and part of that is because the pattern itself is fairly simple. So that's been really nice that I've not had tons of issues to deal with as far as like sizing and fit and how things have turned out. I would have loved to have more testers involved because it can definitely help make the pattern even better and help to promote the pattern when it launches. But I take what I can get, and I am happy with the testers that I have had. It's been a pretty good, pretty uneventful testing period, honestly. With something more complicated as far as sizing goes, then there can definitely be more issues with sizing, but earwarmer only has literally one measurement it's based on, so that makes it pretty simple. And so far, when people meet gauge, they've been able to get a good sizing for their headband. It's going well, and we're just finishing that up. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's going well, and we're just finishing that. It's going well, and we're just finishing that up. Okay, hello. It is Thursday, February 10th, and I am planning on having the cardamom wrap and cardamom earwarmer patterns released on Saturday, which is in 2 days. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me. We came down with the Rona this week. I think my husband must have gotten it from someone at work. You can probably hear it in my voice. And I think we're starting to get better, maybe, or plateauing at least. So we're on our way to being better. I'm not too sick. Sick enough that I don't necessarily want to do anything, but not so sick I can't do anything. So still going ahead with the pattern release. I've received all notes from my testers. I received notes and pictures from all my other testers for both patterns. So I'm going to go through. And like I said previously, this is a fairly simple pattern writing-wise, and so I don't have very many things to change, but I do want to add some more resources in the pattern. So my plan is to add more information about how to wet block your piece, since alpaca, mohair, and Angora fibers really need that type of blocking in order to really bloom and to create the fabric that I'm looking for in this piece. And I also want to include some directions for modification for the wrap if you want to make it thinner, if you want to make it more like a blanket, if you want to make it into, you know, a towel or something, so smaller in all directions, just including kind of a formula so you can figure out what size you can make yours and how many stitches you would need. So even though the pattern is just for the wrap, it'll have a section for modification so that you can use that math based on your gauge and the size you want to get to figure out exactly what size. So I'll have a couple dimension options there, but I'll also kind of give math so that someone can figure it out for themselves. And that helps especially with the moss stitch pattern so that you have the right stitch count to make those happen. I'm going to include a list of all different fibers and combination suggestions, especially within the earwarmer pattern, since the final gauge is a bulky weight. You could use a single bulky weight yarn if it had the right fiber content, or you could use many combinations of yarn in order to get that final bulky weight. And I mean, I keep talking about mohair, alpaca, Angora fibers. That's what I used for my pattern because I really liked the bloom that it got, and I wanted to write a pattern that showcased that bloom and created that fabric.
that is kind of unique to those types of fibers. But you could totally use a regular DK weight yarn for the wrap and a regular bulky weight yarn for the earwormer. You don't have to use those special fibers, but I wanted to have a pattern that was written in a way that would highlight those fibers. And so that was kind of my goal. So right now I'm gonna edit the last couple little edits in my pattern and then start working on those extra resources and then making a to-do list for myself on things that I want to try to get done tomorrow on Friday. Whether that's any more photos I need to take or video tutorials. I've had a few suggestions. I'm not sure if I'll get through all of it in time for the pattern release, but I will do my best to provide as many resources as possible through this pattern. And so I'm gonna spend a little bit of time working on that and kind of creating my finer point to-do list so that I can get this pattern ready to go for Saturday. Good morning. It is officially pattern release day for my cardamom wrap and cardamom earwarmers. So you may hear I totally lost my voice. And so I didn't film yesterday my preparations, hoping that my voice would be better. Not really the case, but I will tell you kind of about how I did my final preparations for the pattern release yesterday, kind of what I did the day before, and then I'll talk about what I'm going to be doing today. And I am grateful that I had the time and I could do a lot of the preparations yesterday, and that makes it easier just because I can't schedule a lot of things ahead of time so that I can be prepared and I don't have to spend my whole release day working on stuff, but I can have most of it ready. I just have a few things that are not as time sensitive today in order to actually have the pattern released. Yesterday was a lot, and I'll make sure to include some B-roll. I'm saying this to remind myself to include it. I'm just kind of showing you. Yesterday I finalized the pattern. I'd already gone through tester notes, but I really wanted to include resources for using alpaca or mohair fibers for makers. I wanted this to be a very beginner friendly pattern, but to be a stepping off point to help them to kind of level up their making game. So I included resources on how to wet block those fibers. So there's a little guide in both patterns on that. I included some yarn substitutions, both of the same weight that I use of the Rowan Alpaca Classic. I had some yarn substitutions and substitution guidelines for using different weights of fibers and combining multiple strands of yarn. So I have all that in there. It was really helpful for me too to look up because it wasn't necessarily something I already knew how to do. I didn't know very many fibers like Rowan Alpaca Classic. That would be a good substitution, so I had to do my research. And then in the wrap pattern exclusively, I included some guidelines on how to modify the pattern. Since the pattern is literally just a rectangle, I gave some suggestions on how you can modify it, as well as including different mathematical ways to figure out how to make the dimensions different. If you wanted to do a different size blanket, a different size scarf, anything like that, using that same stitch pattern, being able to figure out based on your gauge how many stitches, how many rows, all that stuff. And I walk you through that in the wrap pattern, so it really is a versatile pattern for makers. I worked on that. It actually took quite a while because those guidelines are like written out, so it's like 4 pages worth of guidelines. I finished the pattern with those guidelines, and I downloaded a PDF. So it's really easy actually on Google Doc. You can download the file as a PDF, and I saved it to my computer, uploaded it back onto my Google Drive, so I have a copy, and that is my PDF that I'll use to give to anyone who buys the pattern. If I need to make any changes, I'll just change the Google Doc, re-download the PDF as like a new copy, like a new version, and then I can re-upload those into my selling platforms, update the sellers that way. So finish the PDF, which is really exciting. That's like the big checkpoint I need to reach, where I really couldn't do anything else until I had that pattern. So finished that pattern and then finished my listings on Ravelry and Etsy. Ravelry, I already set up most of the pattern information ahead of time so that my testers could put in their projects. It's really cool. You can actually put in all the information, fill out about the pattern, and then there's a spot for testers. So even before you publish that pattern, testers can put in a tester code in their project name. That tester code will link it back to your pattern, so that when you publish the pattern, those projects are already uploaded, which is really cool. Uploaded the PDF was like the only other step I needed to do. So Ravelry listings were already basically done. Then on Etsy, I just copied basically what I had in the description and gauge information, yardage information, those kind of important things from the Ravelry listing. I just moved them on over and put them all in the description box for Etsy. So took a little bit longer, but I had all the information already available to me, so not too bad. I finished those listings already, which is awesome, and because I already had the listings published, I wanted to make sure to get the sales published as well, because I would have felt really bad if someone happened to find my pattern between yesterday and today and then didn't get the sale. Like, I just want to make sure to get that done. I did that late last night. You basically have to finish the listings and then you can do the pattern. So it's a lot of sequential stuff at this point. So I went on, did a 20% discount for both websites, Etsy and Ravelry. So that's automatic for the next week. And then I went back, did a special coupon code for Ravelry. So you could get the Cardamom ear warmer pattern for free if you use the special coupon code that I'm sending to my newsletter subscribers today, or that is within the Cardamom wrap pattern. So if you buy the Cardamom wrap pattern, you get access to the Cardamom ear warmer pattern. So I did that coupon code. Unfortunately, it won't work on Etsy. Coupon code like that only works like for your entire shop as a whole. I couldn't make it specific to just that pattern. It just wasn't working quite well. But I will say here, and I said it in my newsletter and my pattern, if you can't use Ravelry or don't use Ravelry, you can always email me and let me know what the coupon code is, and I can just send you a PDF of the pattern. I don't mind that. I want to make it as accessible as possible, that same deal. So I set that up, and yeah, that's like everything I did yesterday. It kind of took the whole day to do it. I was at home sick with my family, and so it's not like I just sat down and worked on it for like 12 hours or anything, but I was able to work on that through nap time, a little bit in the morning, later on in the night. So that's kind of what I was working on all throughout the day. So technically, I published the pattern yesterday. You could have already bought it. No one has bought it that I've seen. I really do like to have the pattern released the day ahead of time because there's so many things to do after I release the pattern that unless I want to do an afternoon pattern release, it's too stressful. So I like to get it done and out of the way the day before, the evening before, and then it's already done. I can move on to do the other finalizing things, the sales, the coupons, whatnot. So today, actual pattern release day, I need to announce the pattern release. So I'm going to have a post or two on Instagram. I'll probably talk about it in my stories. I filmed a reel yesterday. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram reels. I just know that they reach a lot more people, and Instagram is not showing my photos to even my followers, let alone to new people, which is really disheartening. So I decided that I really wanted to do an Instagram reel for this pattern release. So I threw one together. I'm sick, my husband's sick, my baby's sick, so it's not fantastic, but it shows kind of the different ways you can wear this pattern. It's got some fun little instrumental music in the background, so I just really hope it can spread the word of this pattern, and if anyone's interested, they will take a look. So I have a reel to hopefully reach more people about this pattern release, kind of spread the word about that. I already filmed that. I already typed out most of the description for that. So that reel is almost done. I had originally posted the testing calls on the Pattern Testers Facebook group. What I can actually do is update that page to remind people, hey, this pattern is now on sale. It's now released. Give the links so that if people were kind of following along with that pattern, even if they weren't volunteering to test it, they could go back and find it. They have an Instagram page, the Pattern Testers group. So I'll kind of update that there. And one of my goals this year is to work on Pinterest. So my other goal today is to get my Pinterest links ready for Etsy and Ravelry and post lots and lots of pins about my patterns and then kind of schedule them out through the next couple weeks. And so that is kind of more tedious. So I'm going to try to streamline that, have my little description blurbs, have my links ready. So I'll have that all in kind of like a document or something so I can just copy and paste and move them over into pins, so that I can set up a handful of pins for my cardamom wrap and for my cardamom ear warmer. Spread the word. I do apologize about my voice, and also Georgia just woke up because it's about 7 this morning. I'll try to get some B-roll in to show you a little bit about what things look like. All right, so I ended up finishing my website update. I tried to put kind of all the important information here. I don't get a ton of traffic, but I really want to have everything kind of cohesive. Put some fun pictures, basic info, more fun pictures. I put all the buttons here so that you could buy the patterns. Also reminded about the free coupon code. Little blurb about each of the patterns, important information in case anyone is interested in making it and maybe wants to do a gauge swatch, see if their yarn works, things like that. Sizing, a little bit about yarn weight stuff. I included my YouTube video where I talk about the design process, and when the second video comes out, this one, I make sure to have that linked as well. I included my tester photos, which is so fun. So yeah, this is just kind of like all the resources for anyone who's interested in learning more about the pattern and for hopefully wanting to make it. You can see I've got bajillion tabs open right now, but I actually also worked on my newsletter yesterday. So this is pretty much ready to send out. A little blurb about why this is an awesome pattern. I included the free coupon code for my newsletter subscribers. And then I also have my links for Ravelry and Etsy for my patterns. Some tester photos because I had some awesome testers. Yay! Woohoo! So that is ready to send. Okay, raw moment time. So I released my pattern and I've gotten maybe like 6 or 7 people who have already put in the free coupon code to get the earwormer pattern, which is so exciting. Those all are newsletter subscribers, and so that just warms my heart. People are opening my newsletter, using the code, clicking the link. It just makes me so happy. And then I gave my testers their pattern copy, and so I have that all sent out to them, which is really awesome. You can check that off the list. I do really like giving them the final version of the pattern in a PDF form, so it's easier for them to track down and save and make again and again. They definitely deserve that for helping me finalize the pattern. And then finally, I literally like 30 seconds ago, I just sold my first pattern. Someone actually paid to get the cardamom wrap, and I'm getting all choked up. Every single sale means so much to me as a really, really small business owner. And I love when people share my content. I love when people see my content. I love when they comment on my posts. I love it when people are excited to test for me. I love it when people download my free patterns and make those things. And when someone's willing to use their money to support me and to show me how much they like my pattern, that just means the world. And the past few pattern releases I've had have not been very successful with reach. And so just selling one pattern right now just makes the stay worth it. All right, so as you see, I am wearing my cardamom wrap as a scarf. This has kind of been my favorite way to wear it to celebrate the end of this vlogging process. It's been quite the process from part 1, my inspiration of that scarf that I saw on Pinterest, through figuring out what yarn I wanted to use, going to my local yarn store, doing all the math to figure out my pattern and kind of drafting different color blocking, actually creating it once I finally figured out the stitch pattern I wanted to use, writing up that pattern, sending it out to testers in this video, working with testers, going through edits, making changes to the final pattern, adding resources, and now finally publishing the pattern. It's published today, and I'm so happy that I sold at least one copy, and I've had quite a few people interested in the earwormer. I just spent the whole rest of the day from like noon or like 11 this morning up through maybe like an hour ago. It's like 7 o'clock right now. So I spent like 6 or 7 hours throughout the day just working on my Pinterest posts. I read somewhere, and this could be outdated because I feel like things with social media change so frequently, but I read somewhere that you should be posting every single day. And so my goal was to have a handful of different photos that I really enjoy celebrating this pattern, and doing a Pinterest post for each of those photos and scheduling them for different days of the week. But I have my cardamom wrap on Ravelry, I have it on Etsy, I have my earwormer on Ravelry and Etsy. So that's 4 different platforms, technically 4 different links that I wanted to use. And so having like a half a dozen photos for each one, like a while. And you'll see I had in my notes app on my phone, I had the titles that I wanted to use, the descriptions I wanted to use, the links, so I could just copy and paste, but it was still really tedious, and so I didn't want to do it all in one go. I would do like all of the ear warmer on Etsy pins, so there'd be like 7 or 8 of them, and then I'd be like, oh man, like I can't, my brain, I need a break, I need to do something else. So I just kind of spaced it out throughout the day, but I actually finished them all, and I decided that I wanted to promote a pin on Pinterest. I've done this only once before with my Rocket Ship Lovey pattern, and that has been by far my most purchased pattern actually to date, and it's been a huge driver for my blog. And so even though I didn't promote it very much, it really helped with expanding, and so I thought that it would be worth it to just spend a couple bucks a day and promote this pattern and see kind of what happens. So now that I'm saying that out loud, it's making me think maybe I should give a little update, maybe in the description box for this video or in a pinned comment down below. I'll kind of give you an update on how that goes if I don't end up filming like a reaction to that. But I ended up setting all that up, not super hard, but it just took a lot of time to set that all up, and I found out you can only have 30 scheduled Pinterest pins at a time, and I exceeded that number. Yeah, so I probably had like 8 or 9 of each link, and then I just had to publish a bunch immediately when I made them. We'll see kind of how my reach goes and if I can get this pattern out to more people, continue promoting it, and that's really the hardest part at this point. I'm so proud of this pattern and the resources I was able to include, and I loved seeing all the tester photos, and I'm just really happy with this pattern and really proud to have this out in the world, and I really feel like I'm giving a lot of value in this pattern. And I know previously I talked about imposter syndrome and how maybe it wasn't worth the effort to put this pattern out into the world, but I really at this point feel like it totally was. Not just for me, but I feel like for others who are interested in the pattern, that it'll be a really good resource for them, and to kind of do what I wanted to do, give them their first pattern they could use a mohair or an alpaca yarn with, to kind of delve into that world of more luxury fibers with a simple pattern that'll really showcase those fibers, and with some resources within the pattern in order to really take advantage of that. I'm really proud of this design and really happy with it. I'll definitely leave the links down below so that if you're interested, you can check it out. And so that's all set up, and now, yeah, it's just promotion and just trying to get more of a reach. I know Instagram has not been my friend recently as far as getting engagement and being seen by other people, so I'll probably try to work on other reels and stuff. I don't really know at this point. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I figured right about now is a good place to end the video and just, you know, take you from start to finish, part 1, which I'll also link down below, the inspiration of this design, all the way through creation, and now the testing and publishing of this design. It's published, it's out in the world, it's available, and I'm really happy with it. I hope that this is something that you enjoy and you really liked seeing this process. If you want to see this kind of video again with a design process, or even just making a piece that is designed by someone else, then definitely let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if there is anything in particular you really thought was interesting about the design process. I would love to hear your perspective, whether you are a designer or just a maker or just someone who's not even a maker of crochet things, but this is something kind of new that you're learning all about. I think that's so fun. I love to have all of you guys here. Definitely let me know if there is any other type of content you want to see from me, and I will see you on Friday for another video. Happy making. Bye.